Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, My Sister, My Frenemy. It's a sister act as the goddess next door and the devilish diva team up in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, My Sister, My Frenemy in paperback and e-readers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem, Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem, Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. A black woman was sentenced to life in prison for murdering her best friend, who she considered to be like a sister.
Friends and roommates until one of them flipped and killed the other one. Now the Fulton County District Attorney's Office is taking us inside a bizarre murder conviction. Channel 2's investigative reporter Mark Winnie has the murder in a Midtown townhome where the killer beat and then strangled the victim. Mark, this was in 2022.
Yeah, Fulton County's lead prosecutor on this case, Cassie Hall, says this case handled by the Fulton DA's major case unit involved two stunning women so tight they called each other sister, a relationship that ended in stunning fashion, in murder.
Jamaria was so fun, loving, caring, giving, just goofy, smiling all the time, just down-to-earth, loving girl.
The tragic story of Mimi and Mo. Okisha Range, nicknamed Mo, was so controlling of her roommate Shamaria Mimi Fletcher, attempting to isolate her from friends and family. It was like she had a stranglehold on Mimi's life. But when Mimi broke free by scheduling a trip without Mo,
an annual trip that she had missed prior years because of this defendant.
Okisha Range literally strangled Ms. Fletcher at the Midtown condo where they lived, says Fulton County Chief Senior Assistant District Attorney Cassie Hall.
She beat her where she had contusions all over her body from her head to her feet, and then after that, she strangled her to death.
Prosecutor Hall says Ms. Range suggested she and the victim had been play fighting and Mo kicked Mimi.
I said, look, quit playing, and I kicked.
But that Mimi was alive and talking after that, but that doesn't explain the choking.
According to my client, no, it did not upset her. She did not have any issues with her going on a trip.
Defense attorney Anton Rowe.
Ms. Range does, in fact, continue to maintain her innocence of all charges and allegations.
Oh, my gosh, I can't even. I'm seizing.
Ms. Hall says Mo Range frequently feigned illness to manipulate Mimi Fletcher. And in 2 Atlanta police interviews, Mo acted as if she was having seizures. But the prosecution used that against her, playing excerpts at Keisha Range's recent trial, which culminated in a conviction for murder and a life without parole sentence.
She still maintains that she's never faked any type of seizures. She did, in fact, have real illnesses.
We roommate together. They seem to have a great relationship.
Antoinette Degree told us she roomed with both women about 10 months and testified for the prosecution.
I wanted justice for Mimi because during the time that I was in her space, I didn't feel like she was being treated fair in the friendship.
Was she controlling?
Very controlling.
Ms. Hall says for years while Mo Range roomed with Mimi, Mo mooched off Mimi, whose personality sparkled so much she had been elected president of the Eta Mu chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority at Georgia State.
Okisha Range didn't buy herself food. She didn't pay any rent. She didn't have a source of income.
Being a freeloader does not equal a murderer.
But Ms. Hall says barring a successful appeal, the state of Georgia should be feeding and housing Mo for the rest of her earthly life.
My client has directed me to file a motion for new trial, which indicates that she will be appealing the case.
We have someone that becomes literally obsessed with a friend, and when that friend started pulling back, the only way that they could control them was to take their life.
I think when you see the signs multiple times, you have to leave.
Now, defense attorney Rose says he does not believe his client, Ms. Range, was controlling to the extent that Ms. Fletcher was isolated from family and friends. Ms. Degree says she witnessed Mo behave certain ways when Mimi's friends were around, and when it came to drawing attention to her illnesses, that led Ms. Degree to conclude Mo was indeed controlling. Reporting live inside the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, Mark Winnie, Channel 2 Action News.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place in Atlanta in 2022, I believe, Okisha Range took the life of her best friend, Shamira Mimi Fletcher. Now, Shamira Mimi Fletcher and Okisha Range were best friends who were close like sisters. However, as they were close together like sisters, eventually things came to a very tragic head when Shamira Fletcher decided to look to go on a trip by herself. And when she looked to go on this trip by herself, this is where Okisha Range allegedly assaulted and strangled Shamira Fletcher for looking to go on this trip by herself. And after she wound up taking the life of her best friend, this is where police took her into custody and eventually wound up putting her on trial. And after she was convicted of the murder of her best friend, a woman that she's considered to be like a sister, she was sentenced to life in prison with no parole. Now, the Atlanta police see the alleged behavior of Okisha Range as an isolated incident, but when I take a critical examination of Okisha Range's disturbing behavior, it definitely fits the pattern and profile of feminist indoctrinated women that I talk about in my book, The Woman Crisis, and also fits within the paradigm of failure that I talk about in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. And it's clear to me that Okisha Range was definitely a woman in crisis who basically, like many feminists, looks to try to gain power and control through a codependent relationship that they have with other people. And when it came down to her roommate, Shamira Fletcher, she basically wanted to maintain this control because of her deep insecurities about being able to do things for herself. Now, what was going on between Okisha Range and Shamira Fletcher was not a loving friendship that is like sisters. No, what was going on here was a codependent relationship between the insecure Okisha Range and Shamira Fletcher, and what she was looking to do in this codependent relationship was maintain power over Shamira Fletcher to be able to have her take care of her. And what she wanted to do was maintain this control by isolating this woman from her friends and family in this codependent relationship, similar to that of an abusive husband. And I have to wonder if Okisha Range possibly was playing for the other team, and that was possibly part of her need to be so possessive and controlling over Shamira Fletcher. That's what I'm wondering as related to that relationship, because in a healthy interdependent relationship, two women who are like sisters, basically they have a boundary where, yeah, you're close to this woman, but you are out here and able to have other relationships with other people. But in this case of Okisha Range, she basically wanted to get this power over this woman, power to the point where she was living inside of Shamira Fletcher's condo that was in her name, was basically living in that home for free. And as she was living inside of that home, she basically controlled this woman. And as she controlled this woman, again, I look at her relationship and it really mirrors that of women who are of a different sexual orientation. And those women basically, again, look to maintain control in abusive relationships, similar to that of the men who participate in domestic violence in some cases as related to things. And possibly that's what was happening here, because, again, when I look at the abuse that was going on of Shamira Fletcher, again, looking to isolate her from friends and family, this is the same type of abuse that abusers participate in, again, because they feel insecure about themselves. And as they feel insecure and inadequate about themselves, they look to control their partners. And as they look to control their partners, it's all about them having the power in the relationship because they don't have power in their own lives. So they take power over the other person and take power and, again, look to live off the other person because they're afraid to go out here and live themselves. And that's what I think was happening here with Okisha Range as related to her relationship with Shamira Fletcher. She was basically, again, looking to intimidate and control her roommate and her best friend because she didn't want to go out here and be person who would then have a healthy life or live a healthy life. So she looked to leech off this other person. And as Shamira Fletcher looked to go out here and have her own life, this is what triggered the anger in Okeisha Range, triggered the anger as she heard, oh, I want to go on a trip on my own. Because I listened to her, it very much sounds like women who are in domestic violence situations where this woman basically what she wants to do is she wants to go out here and do something for herself, but the controlling husband doesn't want her to do anything because he doesn't want to have her be her own person because he wants to live through her and again wants to maintain his codependency. 1, 2, he doesn't want this woman to see that she has power of her own and he doesn't want her to take power. And the same thing possibly happened here with Okeisha Range. She possibly saw, oh, this woman she's got her own money, she's got her own way to make a living, she's living her own life, and if she leaves me, I won't have anything. And that's what possibly led to this woman who was simmering and boiling in anger for an extended period of time as related to her best friend, because she really wasn't a best friend. When you have to understand with women, a lot of women are not best friends. A lot of women are basically with other women because they're jealous of them. And as they're jealous of them, passively they'll pretend to be your friend, but aggressively will be out here looking to take advantage of you. And that's what I believe happened here with Shamira Fletcher, is that this woman was looking to take advantage of her. And as she looked to take advantage of her, she was living a high life at her expense, living that high life at the expense of the best friend she considered to be like a sister. But what she didn't see was this sister was an enemy. And again, she was a frenemy, really, because she was a friend who was an enemy. And that friend basically turned into an enemy when this woman basically looked to take her personal power. And as she looked to take her personal power, that's when the friends stopped being friends and turned into enemies. And that's when this woman finally exploded in the rage that she had towards this woman, because she was possibly jealous of her success for years. And as she was jealous of her success, this is where she went out here and exploded in this rage, taking the life of her friend. And then after taking the life of her friend, then continued to go on with things as related to her life. Again, looked to take the life of her friend, and then took the life of her friend, because again, this woman was jealous of her friend. And then after she was taken into custody, what happened is she tried to go out here and make the excuse saying, oh, I have these seizures. Again, trying to make herself out to be a victim, make herself out to be a victim of this whole situation, saying that she had seizures and was having issues. But as they had the trial, people were not sympathetic for her. No, they weren't sympathetic for Okeisha Range. And as they weren't sympathetic for Okeisha Range, what they did was wound up convicting her of the murder of Shamira Fletcher. And after they wound up convicting her for this murder, what happened with Okeisha Range was she was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of no parole, and has gone from looking to, again, leech off of her friend Shamira Fletcher to now having to deal with being accountable for herself inside of the penitentiary. And it will now be having to deal with the authority of the CEOs, who she won't be able to go out here and push back on. No, she won't be able to push back on the CEOs the way she was Shamira Fletcher, because Shamira Fletcher was a young woman who had low self-esteem and low self-worth, and basically reminded me a lot of the late Shanquella Robinson. Now, when I look at this case, it basically mirrors that of Shanquella Robinson, in that Shanquella Robinson was a very successful, educated sister who had all of the aspects of success, but didn't have any sort of self-esteem or self-worth. And because she didn't have self-esteem or self-worth, what happened with Shanquella Robinson is that she got involved with a series of female and male predators who looked to take advantage of her, the same way I believe Shamira Fletcher was taken advantage of. And as Shanquella Robinson went out here and spent all of her money taking these friends on a trip, they turned on her, and as they turned on her, they took all of her kindness for weakness and looked to take her life, the same way Okeisha Range was convicted of taking the life of Shamira Fletcher, and wound up taking her life because again, they took her kindness for weakness, and that's what really happened here, because again, this friend was again too nice, and again, that was her big mistake, was just being too nice. And again, a lot of times, like Ringo had said, nice means foolish, and what happens is people take advantage of nice people because they believe that they're foolish and naive. And what this woman wanted to do was get control over her friend. It really wasn't a friend. She basically was jealous of this woman and everything that she had. And when she saw the opportunity of her looking to walk away, this is where she exploded in this rage, and looked to go out here and hurt this woman, because she harbored a lot of anger against her, and harbored all of this anger with this person as related to things, because she wanted to have the power in the relationship, because she saw this woman was young and naive. And what she wanted to do was go out here and look to, again, maintain this codependent relationship. But now that that when she saw this woman was looking to go out and be on her own, that's when she decided to, again, take the life of her so-called friend, and again, just continued to beat her and then strangled her to death. And now this woman is, after doing this to her friend, again, is no longer going to be living in that condo that her friend bought. No, she's no longer going to be living in that condo. No, she's going to have a permanent residence inside of that penitentiary, where again, the COs are going to hold her accountable. And she's also going to have to deal with the social pecking order of Betty, Martha, Big Lou, and Ms. Bubbles, as they go out here and possibly wind up giving her beatdowns as they trade her for the commissary of the Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, Keef coffee, Taster's Choice coffee, off-brand orange drink, off-brand grape drink, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand fruit punch, off-brand mango drink, off-brand strawberry kiwi drink, off-brand apple juice, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand ginger snaps, Hunt's snack pack puddings, Fritos chips, packets of tuna, packets of chicken, beef summer sausage, Velveeta cheese packets, packets of soy sauce, packets of sriracha sauce, packets of honey mustard, off-brand pretzels, all of the items of the commissary. And this woman will basically be being traded in spades games by Betty, Martha, Big Lou, and Miss Bubbles, and will possibly have to taste the secret sauce from the secret place where they make atomic waste. I mean, this woman, basically, she's going to go from controlling this woman in a condo to being controlled inside of the penitentiary, and will basically learn what submission means inside of that cell, where she's going to be for the rest of her life. Again, this woman basically, again, she looked to abuse power, but ironically will now go to a place where she will possibly reap what she sows, later than what she sows, greater than what she sows, for this crime of taking this woman's life. But this woman, Okisha Range, basically was a woman in crisis, because she didn't want to respect a friend. She didn't want to show love to a friend. No, she pretended to be a friend and pretended to be a sister, but turned out to be an enemy. And as she turned out to be an enemy, she violated the trust of a friend to the point where she took her life. And now that she's taken her life, she's lost her intangibles like her freedom, because what she wanted to do was have power over this woman, feigning illness as related to seizures and other things to sympathize for her. But that sympathy wasn't shown by those in law enforcement, who gave her a conviction of first-degree murder when life without parole with a sentence. And that's where this woman wound up in a paradigm of failure as related to her life, because she was one of these single successful black women. But that single successful black woman went from being single and successful, living with a best friend, to now living inside of a cell. And now she's in that paradigm of failure as just yet another woman in crisis. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the behavior of feminist indoctrinated women as related to preying on people, you can pick up my book, The Woman Crisis, on Amazon.com, and you can read all about women like O'Keisha Range as related to the pattern of their behavior in the chapter Crime and the Woman Crisis in the book The Woman Crisis. And you can also learn about the paradigm of failure in my book, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. And both of those books are available on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And they're also available at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital and its affiliates like the iBookstore and other affiliates like Kobo and many others, and it's also available on Google Play. And if you want to see me make more videos regarding the season of The Simp and the Children of the Corn, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback at e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback. From the author of the critically acclaimed book, The Man Crisis, comes The Woman Crisis. Learn why so many women have become lost in their quest to have it all in The Woman Crisis. Get your copy of The Woman Crisis in paperback at Amazon.com and online booksellers today. Now available for the first time in paperback, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single. Learn all the reasons why so many Black women can't find a husband and why 70% of Black women are single. Get your copy of Why 70% of Black Women Are Single on Amazon.com today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.